What's up, guys? I'm the Senator, and today I'm going to be discussing a subject that comes up every now and again with concerns to the realism of Rainbow Six Siege. With Year 5 quickly approaching, we've been introduced to two new operators, Oryx and Iana, and some people are either really excited about the introduction of these new ops, or they really don't like the direction that Siege is headed with these ops, particularly with the introduction of Iana. And for those who really don't follow Siege news and don't really keep up with it and you don't know what she does, her ability allows her to send a hologram that looks exactly like her to scout out or distract the defensive operators. And so right now, like every other season, we're having people right now debate how overpowered or underpowered she can be, and right now the major consensus is that she's pretty OP, but we don't really know how viable she is until, she gets in the test server and we get to see her firsthand. But I'm not really focused on the debate of how viable or overpowered she is. I'm more concerned with the question of, is Rainbow Six Siege becoming too science fiction-y? And this is a very fair question to be asking, and I can understand why many people would be turned off from this game with an introduction of an operator who's just so futuristic and sci-fi with her ability. And right now I'm seeing people complaining about how unrealistic this would make the game. And that's a valid argument. The introduction of an operator like this makes the game very unrealistic. However, Rainbow Six Siege was never really designed to be a hyper-realistic game. When you really take a close look at Siege, the only thing that has been constantly realistic about this game is the gun mechanics, which to me as a gun nut is probably the only thing that really matters. And many of these operators in Rainbow Six Siege have always had gadgets or abilities that had always had some sort of science fiction-y or futuristic or just completely unrealistic spin to it. And so I sat down and made a chart to sort of show that. And this chart will try to give you a basic understanding of how realistic these operators are in their abilities. Note there may be a few flaws, but on the surface I feel like this is pretty accurate in showing how science fiction-y these operators are. And I rank them based on how plausible the technology used by these operators could be. And so when I did the chart, out of the 50 operators that are already in the game, I only found that 19 of them had a gadget or ability that could be deemed very real, as in it's technology that is being used today. And every other operator seemed to be either plausible or near future. And I only found 4 operators to me that seemed straight out of a science fiction book that you probably couldn't believe. Those operators being Jackal, Nock, Vigil, and Wamai. You could also add Iana into that because I believe she is very science fiction-y. So what was the purpose of me making this big chart with all the operators? Well, it's to show that this game isn't really rooted in realism apart from the gun mechanics. Most of the operators have some sort of science fiction-y twist to them, and they've been like this since the release of the game. Some abilities are clearly more futuristic than others, but Rainbow Six Siege does not build itself up as a game that goes for complete realism. And with that being said, I feel like we should stop acting like this game is supposed to be super realistic. I see people pissed that Iana is being introduced because she's just too science fiction-y, and I can honestly understand that, and for the most part, I like my games to be grounded in some sort of realism. However, I find it kind of silly to get worried about how realistic these operators are at this point in Rainbow Six Siege's life cycle. Rainbow Six Siege has always had operators that are just ridiculously futuristic. Some more than others, of course, when you compare like Jackal to maybe an IQ. But overall, they've always had these futuristic operators, which haven't really broken the game or made it less enjoyable. And so, if you really want a game that focuses on tactical realism, there are plenty of games out there that are catered to that type of gameplay, such as Insurgency Sandstorm, Escape from Tarkov, or really any other milsim game. But looking at the introduction of these new operators, it, in my opinion, is going to cause a shift in the meta, and I think that overall these operators are going to be very, very good for Siege. Personally, I find it really interesting that we now have a defensive roamer who can play vertically and go up through hatches, and I find it interesting that we now have an attacker who has sort of a third drone and can also be used to confuse the defensive operators. That may be very futuristic, but it's very, very cool. And comparing this new season that's coming out to, the seasons that we had in year 4, I can honestly say that I wasn't very impressed with the operators that Ubisoft rolled out for us this past year. Other than maybe Mozzie Gridlock or Goyo this past year, really wasn't great in terms of new operators. That's just my opinion. You may have a different one, but overall, that's how I feel. So I really haven't been excited about new operators since Burnt Horizon, which was over a year ago. And some people are pissed because now it's rumored that only 6 new operators are going to be released in this new season. I know this is kind of getting off topic, but when it comes to operators, I want quality over quantity. And from what I've seen, they're following that model because these new operators look like a lot of fun and can be game changers. So to sort of wrap this entire thing up, I'll ask again, is Rainbow Six Siege becoming more science fiction? You could make that argument. But regardless of the verdict, this game was never supposed to be grounded in absolute complete realism. And if they were to do that, it would only limit the creativity of the developers. Because at the end of the day, I feel like most of us would rather have a game that is fun, interesting, and continuously changing, rather than having a game that's only limited to what is real, what's in the real world, and what's possible. But I may be wrong. So let me know in the comments what you think. Is R6 becoming too science fiction? And if it is, do you see that as a bad thing? So let me know. I'm excited to hear from you guys. Remember to go subscribe and hit the bell icon. Also, go check out my Twitch. The link for that will be in the description. And go check out my Instagram. I'm very active on there, and I post memes and other clips daily. So that about does it for today. And as always, have a good one.